Alright, and after an incredible day of NBA playoff basketball, this is where we stand. Not to brag here, but I fucking killed these predictions. In the West, the only game I got wrong was actually saying the Lakers would sweep the Blazers, although I did say that I could see Damian Lillard getting them one game, but whatever, what's official is official. And then on the East, of course, the Magic ruined things for me, they got a game. The Pacers did not get a game. That's funny, I called that backwards. And although the Sixers came close to winning 2 of those games, they were swept. Denver really almost did me, and they were down 3-1, I thought I was gonna have to crumble this. But they did prevail in 7. So, no first round upsets. We have the most entertaining second round on both sides of the bracket. I already did my Eastern Conference prediction video, you can go see that one, and hell, at this specific point in time, it doesn't look like those are even gonna go the distance, it just looks like the teams I said were gonna win are gonna win. So, let's see if I can continue this on the West side. So this matchup feels more or less pretty straightforward for me. This is the matchup that I prefer to watch. However, I don't see anything here that should make anybody expect an upset. Obviously, the Nuggets are a very good team, they're even a team that people have called a dark horse much of the season. Nikola Jokic just posted 26 and 8 on 51% field goal shooting against probably the toughest defensive center he's going to see for the rest of the playoffs, however long that lasts. Jamal Murray, out of nowhere, seemed to take that step up that we have been waiting for someone on the Nuggets to take, because we look at Jokic as being the star, but him definitely needing that dual partner for Denver to take that next step up. And for much of the Utah series, it seemed like that happened. Now, that's the wild card here, right? Because Jamal Murray was not playing at this level last time Denver and the Clippers played. Another wild card, Paul George in the first round only averaged 19 points on 35% shooting. It was abysmal, and we don't know what we're gonna get from him. It's really like a grab bag at this point. He did show up when they needed him in the most important game of the Dallas series, but off this latest sample size, we don't know if we're getting PG-13 or rated E for everyone. Still, having the best player in the playoffs thus far kind of nullifies that. Kawhi Leonard did not have an answer in Dallas. He certainly does not have an answer in Denver. I'm not even sure what the defensive game plan is going to be there or who they're going to put on him. And so, worst come to worst, I think some of these games might be a little bit too close for comfort, but even if PG is playing bad, they've got a closer, they've got a go-to option. That's one of the reasons they've been the favorite to win the championship for quite a while now. And yeah, the way the Nuggets just struggled to contain Donovan Mitchell, if Paul George is able to provide anything close to his regular self, on top of what we can expect from Kawhi Leonard, well, that's another reason why I don't really expect an upset here. Also, with Denver not having great defensive options for their wings, the Clippers can abuse them in the pick and roll the same way the Jazz just did. Nikola Jokic, beautiful on offense, not so much on defense. He's kind of a cone there. Whether they're getting open looks for Lou Williams, freeing up space for Kawhi Leonard, or yeah, Paul George, getting Jokic involved in that action, I think it's going to make things fairly easy for the Clippers. I also believe they just took note of what Jamal Murray did, so it feels like their defense would be geared towards not letting him score 30 a night, 40 a night. It probably won't be as difficult to key in on him as it was for Luka, considering that, well, A, Luka is an infinitely superior player at this point, and B, Dallas's offense is the best in the league, so it was kind of hard to look at one guy and just try to trap him. I don't expect them to run Kawhi and PG on Jamal Murray the entire night the same way they didn't do that for Luka. However, they've got better options than Utah did, obviously. Also, at some point, I'm assuming Patrick Beverley is going to be back. People don't like him, I get that, but he is an irritant, and at points when they might be trying to have Jamal Murray just abuse Reggie Jackson or Lou Williams, because teams routinely hunt Lou Williams, I think that's a theme you're going to see going deeper and deeper into the playoffs. Yeah, it's better to have Beverley as an option there. So that'll definitely affect things depending on what point he's actually going to be playing, but whether he plays or not, they're still going to win this series in my opinion. And while we're talking about defense, let's talk about one of Denver's most important upcoming wing players, Michael Porter Jr. He's getting playoff minutes. He's not producing the same as he did in the seeding games, but he's developing. However, I don't know how much of a step forward his defense can take in one series, and assuming that he's going to continue to get minutes, that's going to be a guy that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard attack whenever they're on the floor together. Those are going to be easy points. So the bottom line here is I believe that Denver has more points of emphasis that the Clippers are going to be able to attack. They have more weaknesses than they are going to be able to exploit on the Clippers. Jokic is definitely going to get his. Hell, in theory, this should be an easier series for him, and maybe even Jamal Murray will keep going off, because remember, coming into the Dallas series, I thought they were going to give Luka a much tougher time than they did. However, he was able to feast on other guys not named Kawhi Leonard and PG routinely, so there's a possibility that happens, and I still don't think it is going to net the Nuggets more than 2 games. So at best, I expect this to be another 6-game series, and I think the Clippers are looking at a fairly clear path to the Western Conference Finals. No surprises, really. And those 2 games are me trying to account for the Paul George slump. If he snaps out of that, then this might be over even quicker. LA won 2 of the 3 matches this year against the Nuggets. The only one Denver won was when Paul George wasn't playing. And yeah, as we're here in the playoffs, I don't suspect that Denver is going to be able to make life tough enough for the Clippers to pull off another 3-1 comeback should it come to that point. And the Lakers and Rockets series, which was just confirmed today. Now, we have a surprisingly low sample size for what this series is actually going to look like, considering that the rosters we're about to see in the second round, they only played each other one time. That was back in February. February. In January, the Rockets still had Clint Capella, Anthony Davis did not play, and on August 6th, obviously that was a seeding game, neither LeBron or Westbrook played. So we have one sample game where the Rockets won by 10, Westbrook took off, and the rosters looked closest to how they look now. Okay, so basically we have no sample at all because bubble is a totally different situation, right? Westbrook is now only on his second game. I still don't even think he's 100% yet. The Lakers had a couple of roster changes since then. Everything in the bubble is weird, but nothing is different enough to move me off of what I would have said back then, what I would have said at the beginning of the season. I honestly would never have picked the Rockets to defeat the Lakers, much less in the second round, and it confuses me as to why I'm starting to see this narrative about them being the favorite. Here's the thing with Houston. They are the legitimate manifestation of live by the three, die by the three. They are going to do very little else to get their offense going. Of course, it does help to have Westbrook. He's going to be one of the only other guys that actually drives, puts pressure on the defense, but we're going to say a vast majority of their offense is going to be focused around James Harden creating penetration and guys getting open threes, and you're going to see that again and again and again. And that's the reason why I've been saying the Rockets have been the most fascinating team of the bubble, despite the play being a bit boring sometimes, because of the window they have, or the range I should say. They could have just lost in the first round, but I also think hypothetically they could beat any team in the bubble. When you have an offense that is guaranteed to get open three-point shots and you have a lot of good three-point shooters, yeah, hypothetically you could win any game. The thing is, they obviously have done that at the expense of rebounding, at the expense of being able to defend a player like Anthony Davis. I have no clue how that's going to work. With AD playing full playoff minutes and there actually being a point of emphasis on a team that you were going to try to beat 4 times, I truly expect to see him average over 30 points a game this series. They don't have one capable defender for him. Of course, many teams don't, but again, Houston, micro ball. It's a bit different. So I'm going to be really disappointed if the Lakers aren't attacking them in the paint. And of course, they're not just going to watch AD post somebody up. Of course, they're going to bring help. And then that's where the pressure is going to fall on guys like Caldwell Pope and Danny Green to hit threes. And that is why I still think Houston is going to get a couple of games here. I'm actually calling this a 6-game series because, as you saw in the Blazers series, the Lakers play can just totally depend on whether their role players can hit shots. If guys start collapsing, LeBron is very unselfish. AD might be looking to defer. So a lot of Laker role players are going to get a lot of open shots for that reason. I really expect that in this series. And so of course, if you get a traditional playoff Danny Green night, then yeah, that could end up with a loss for the Lakers. And the Rockets have talent and they have the offense to pull some games out of this series. So I'm not saying it's not going to be competitive, but they have some pretty clear disadvantages here to where it's basically a thing of they would have to outshoot the Lakers 4 times to eliminate them. Just flat outshoot them because they're not going to beat them on the boards. They're not going to stop their stars on defense. It's literally how many points can we drop on their heads. And with this style, that is how they've been fundamentally trying to change basketball. But I know the NBA is all about matchups. Just because one team gets into a close series with another team, it doesn't mean that it doesn't dictate the outcome of the next series, right? But still, my confidence is not high after watching them come within like a possession of losing to OKC. They were almost a first round out. And OKC is a team that just wasn't capable of putting the type of pressure that the Lakers are about to put on their defense. We're talking about game 7. They basically just relaxed on Dort, rightfully so. Made him prove himself and he was doing it. But outside of Chris Paul, it was hard to find consistency. Gallinari was not great. Steven Adams was nowhere near the problem in the post that Davis is about to be. And so when I'm looking at Chris Paul and a lot of, let's just call it what it was, streaky role players pushing Houston how they did, because they're so prone to go on droughts when their threes aren't falling, I'm looking at the Lakers and I'm looking at 2 stars that are about to be a lot more consistent, going to make the defense work a lot harder down low. And when I see that, the only way I could see the Rockets winning this series is if Westbrook just basically replicated his performance from February 4 times. Also, Harden would have to be magnificent, obviously. However, all in all, I just believe that Houston lacks the versatility to eliminate the Lakers. Like, even if you're talking about Houston playing small and nullifying some of the Lakers' big men, it's not like the Lakers don't have a small lineup they can use and be successful here. And while LA is not invincible, they have their sights set on higher things. And I just think with such clear points of attack that they have against Houston, I'd be very shocked to see them lose 4 times to them. So I don't doubt there'll be some entertaining games, but Lakers in 6. And so by the time we were at the conference finals, this is what it would look like. Of course, on the Eastern side, I left my predictions the same, although at this point it doesn't look like the Bucks or the Raptors are going to get 3 games. I just left what I originally estimated there. And maybe the Eastern Conference isn't exactly what everybody wanted or imagined, but the Western Conference is exactly what everybody wants and imagines. The Battle of LA, even without a crowd. I feel like there's some scores to settle, and the streets are asking for Kawhi and LeBron. So let me know what you think about the predictions here. Tell me if you see any potential for upsets, and don't forget to hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, and hit the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.